Hello, I'm Matt Whitman, and I'm here on the set of Disney's The Jungle Book. Or am I? Look closer. A little closer yet. Do you see it? That jungle behind me is actually just a green screen. And these wolves are actually just stuffed animal replicas. And if you were impressed by this, you'll be all the more dazzled when you and your family take in Disney's The Jungle Book at a theater near you. Hey, I'm Matt. I'm the worst Christian ever, and this is my 2007 netbook. And in 2007, I had stuff on my mind, so I typed about it in here, and somewhere deep inside the thing is all of that stuff still hiding on a hard drive. And if I wanted to, I suppose I could take that stuff off of this hard drive and put it on my fancy new computer and look at it in higher resolution. But it would still be the thoughts and ideas and questions I was wrestling with roughly 10 years ago. And every now and then I feel like Hollywood makes a movie like that, where they take really good old source material and package it up for a new audience with modern technology. And I feel like Disney's The Jungle Book is exactly that kind of time capsule movie. Fiction that's written today is easy to decode because we think about the issues that they're dealing with all the time, and it's hard to disguise that subtext. But when you have something like The Jungle Book, that's a movie made in 2016, based on a book written in 1894, well, that subtext can be a little bit more head-scratching for us because we just don't think about the issues they were thinking about in 1894 that often. The voice acting was fantastic in this show. The effects visually are game-changing and are going to be talked about for a long time. But there are tons of reviews that are focusing on that. I want to talk about themes. In order to get into the three themes that I think subtly come through in this show, we got to talk a little bit about the guy who wrote the thing in the first place. So back to Rudyard Kipling. Kipling loved India as a little kid. He felt loved and well received by the people there. He had admiration for Indian culture. And then he just got abruptly sent back to England. He went to this crappy boarding school that he didn't want to go to, and he was miserable there. Well, as a young man, maybe 16-ish, he comes back to India, reunites with his family, and reunites with the culture he loves. So again, this is a guy who isn't just speculating at a distance about what colonialism is. He's actually living the thing out, and he sees the ups and the downs of it. Which brings up my first time capsule theme, which is the law of the jungle. Right off the bat in this show, you discover that all the creatures in the jungle abide by this law. They don't know where it came from, they don't know who wrote it, but they take it crazy seriously. So seriously that they would all gather at this tiny little water hole, knowing that they're all on truce right now because there isn't much water to go around. And what we see peeking through there is the historical idea of natural law. That there is a law that exists that is higher than even that which governments make, that says we have value by virtue of our being us and existing. And that a certain degree of respect for each other is the only way we can do life right. Kipling is saying that that awareness is something that's built into everybody, even in the places you might imagine to be uncivilized. A second time capsule theme that I still think Jon Favreau allowed to shine through in the new Jungle Book is this idea of innovating with care. In the movie, Bagheera is always pulling back on Mowgli, saying, hey, don't use all these human tricks. But Mowgli really wants to use these tricks because he's human, and that's what he does. But Bagheera is saying, hey, there's a way that things work around here. We have a law of the jungle. We have a manner that is tried and tested. And we know that if we all follow this, stuff's going to be cool. Now, Bagheera's old enough to have seen attempts at innovation blow up in people's faces and cause a lot of harm. So he has reason to be skeptical. But Mowgli is the young optimist who really wants to tug at the leash and try some new stuff. That was a tension that existed in 1894 when this thing was written. Nowadays, everybody's like, what? Innovate, go crazy. Who cares what old dead people thought? Let's just press forward with no regard for things that made sense in the past. The reality is probably a healthy balance is somewhere in between, and I'm not smart enough to know exactly where that is. If you want to get a better sense of what Kipling thought about this stuff, check out The Gods of the Copybook Headings. It's one of the most interesting poems you'll ever read, and you'll be chewing on it for a long time. The third and final time capsule theme I want to talk about is colonialism. At the time that Kipling was writing The Jungle Book, the whole colonial thing was starting to fall apart anyway, and he could read the writing on the wall that this probably wasn't a good thing to double down on because it was just time for this to dwindle. But there were two schools of thought on colonialism. Some people said, well, we need to defeat our other European rivals, so we're going to have to run roughshod over all the other people of the world and exploit them and take their stuff. Obviously, that's pretty compromised and pretty ugly. Then there's another school of thought where people said, look at all we've figured out in the West. We can't very well call ourselves Christians or good people and not try to give that away to others. So there were really bad motives for colonialism and really good motives for colonialism, but either way, it seems like it had run its course by the turn of the last century. And so Kipling writes this famous poem called White Man's Burden that a lot of people, without really looking closely at it, say, oh, that's super racist. That guy was into colonialism and is bad. But if you look closely, you can see it's a pretty conflicted little poem that reflects elements of both of those two views of colonialism. In the Jungle Book, the jungle isn't bad. I can't stress this enough. Kipling's version, Favreau's version, same deal. They're great characters there, people of honor, and Mowgli receives love and care that you wouldn't expect him to receive in the wilds. But at the same time, Mowgli brings something to the table that the animals in the jungle don't bring to the table themselves.
No more tricks.
And that's most illustrated in his ability to manipulate fire. Something that in the movie brings about both destructive things and good things. So what I'm saying is that this charming Disney movie made in 2016 has a surprising subtext that acknowledges the mixed bag that was our colonial past. But ultimately, neither the original version of this book or the movie that just happened settle that question for you. And that's why I like the show. It deals with several really complex themes, but it doesn't deal in cheap allegory where so-and-so represents this and so-and-so represents that, and here's your moral lesson at the end that you all have to take away from this or you're on the wrong side of the movie. I felt like that was what you got from Tomorrowland and Zootopia, but not this. It's good art, and good art just challenges your assumptions, informs you a little bit, pushes you to think, forces you to feel some sympathy for things that you don't normally feel sympathy for. Bad art just pats you on the head and says you already know everything you need to know, and here, I'll just reaffirm that for you so you can feel even better walking out the door. In sum, I think this is a great show. I think it's beautiful and complicated and challenging, and I want to express respect to everybody involved with this movie for having the courage to just let the themes that made the story awesome in the first place come through in this version of it told today, even if it makes us a little uncomfortable. I'm really excited to hear your opinions on this one. Please jump in the comments, let me know what you thought, and while you're at it, if you can think of any more time capsule movies that really worked where they took old source material and the themes came through in a more modern expression of that, I'd be really interested. I'm brainstorming a list. At any rate, I'm Matt, I'm the worst Christian ever. We'll see you soon.